cell phone.
Okay, so it looks like we're all here. So why don't I call the meeting to order at 9:35. President Lisa McGonigal, Bill McGowan, Wayne Sawchuk, Paul Kears, and Dan Coughlin. So our first order of business is our next meeting, which looks to be the 28th of June.
Okay. And we have one tomorrow in person, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Where we, Lisa, where are we doing that meeting?
It's going to be at Wolcott.
Okay.
9 a.m. I believe.
Yep.
Now, on that particular meeting, do we want Dan there, or is this something that is much different in terms of looking at alternatives and stuff?
I think it's more introductory than anything. I mean, for us to ask the two town managers what's going on. I'm presuming that Chris and Jim Boudreau are going to be there. I don't know. So
They're supposed to be.
yeah, I think it's too high level. I think once we get into the weeds, it's a different thing. So I think it's just a matter of gauging interest in that kind of stuff. So my own opinion.
I agree with you.
Okay.
So Lisa, I think the first thing on our agenda is the Cook Estate.
Yes.
Great.
So Jane Reardon, we have Sean Hardy,
Yep.
Pam Fahey, and Ally Babcock.
Great. And I'm going to turn it right to Sean, because I think he is the one who has the most information from us.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I think last week we had sent, I think, to Pam, Dan, and also DPW, like a 75% sort of design phase of layout. We worked with FR Mahoney. We have the pumps figured. They think that they can, if we get the go ahead, that those are acceptable from your guys' perspective, that we're going to pre-order those pumps so that we can have them delivered now probably end of July and hopefully fit this thing together and meet the schedule. I'm expecting, so we brought in an electrical engineer due to the remote location. He'll be finishing his design for supplying power and backup power by the end of this week for the pump system that'll be in the field that replaces the failed septic system. And once we get, if we have any comments from you guys, we'll try and turn them around pretty quickly to get up to the 100% design and start going soliciting quotes from contractors and hopefully get underway.
So Sean, I did take a look at the plans. I only had really two comments. Everything as far as preliminary plan looked okay. You're very close to the septic for 206, and that's a little concerning. You don't want to lose that septic because it's going to be a little while before they actually tie in and connect. So I don't know if you can try to really locate that tightly in the field and try to give it a little berth when you go by that. But it looks like you're just clipping the corner of the leaching field. The other thing was the actual discharge point. You're discharging to a manhole that is one of the services from the school. There's two 6-inch service lines that come out from the school, and you're going into the one that's runs by the front. That would vent back up through the school itself. And I think a preferred location is just a little bit further, and that way you don't have to cross the crosswalk either, or the sidewalk. It's actually on the last manhole before the station for the school on the top of the hill. So that line comes down, and that's an 8-inch versus a 6-inch. And that goes right into the station. And there's one manhole just before it enters the pump station. And that to be like a better location. And in terms of venting and everything else, it's less likely to vent back up the hill. And any odors that would ultimately be produced would be very local. So I think that's probably a preferred location. Also has a lot more capacity as well.
Okay, I will make those changes. I don't know as far as on the DPW side of things, as far as layout or, you know, pavement restoration or those kinds of things. Once I get feedback on that, I can firm up those details as well.
So the layout looks okay. Pavement restoration, obviously, we need we need a full 2 inches of binder, an inch and a half a top, so 4 inches of mix, or 2 and 2 actually. Leveraging the grass as you did seems to make sense. So I don't think there's any issue with the layout. I did send it to the schools. I haven't heard anything from them, so I don't imagine they'll have any kind of technical comments.
Brian, are you just looking for trench repair?
Yes. Unless you want to pave the front apron of the school, I'm happy to do that.
No, thanks. Not on our dime anyway.
Okay,
Do
well,
you want to, Brian, do you want to close that loop with the town just to make sure we don't get this to the next step and then find there's an issue? I mean, but do they need to sign off or is there some, I'm official?
Yeah, this is a unique situation. There's no sign up in schools, but yeah, I'll close the loop with Pat Sullivan, and Sue Owen, and see
Great.
what they require.
Great.
I'll send you some formal comments too, Sean, at the end of the week. Just so you have them.
what was that? I'm sorry.
I'll send you some formal comments, something in
Oh,
writing in an email, just so you have
Thank
it.
you. I appreciate it.
So
So do
Brian,
we, go
you
ahead.
need just notify emergency management that, this work is going to be going on there.
Sure. Yeah, we
Okay.
can.
Tenant there.
So, and just so you know, so our facilities garage is in the back there next to emergency management. So facilities and emergency management will be affected, but we'll, that crossing shouldn't take a very long time, I would imagine. And we'll be able to get in and out with a road plate.
Pam, any update on the town council's review of the easement?
Yeah, so Jane, I take it you didn't hear from him.
No.
I went up to Chris Senior and I was there in Chris's office and he wrote an email to Greg Corbo saying that, we can't be the ones holding up this project. Can you please respond? And I guess obviously he didn't. So I'll go up and tell Chris and I'll have Chris call his boss at KP Law to find out what the story is and just say,
Great.
look, we can't be the ones holding this whole thing up. This is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, if there's an issue, let us know. I mean, we're open. I think both parties on the easement are open to whatever language you guys need to insert in it so that you will I mean, it's good news for us that you'll maintain the pipe
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
Heggies. So I think the sooner we get that done and we can then get it into the legal process and get it registered. I don't want to be here a month from now and have some issue pop up that people aren't comfortable with. So,
No, I agree. This is really bad that we're the ones being the limiting factor here. So I'll go upstairs right after this meeting. This
Thank
is
you.
crazy.
great.
So Pam, also, Greg is supposed to work on an agreement with the Cook Estate once the easement is in place. So you might want to tee him up for that as well.
This isn't one and the same.
No, so this is an easement that has to be in place. And then once an easement is in place, the sewer commission is going to enter into an agreement with Cook Estates for the privilege and hookup fee to be paid over 20 years,
Great.
Okay.
That's
Yes.
great. News.
similar to CJC.
Okay.
Great. So it's kind of my words, not your words. a betterment over 20 years.
Correct. That's what we had originally talked about and putting it. And the only way we can do that is through an agreement similar to CJC.
Perfect. And will that be able to be, Paul, house specific?
I don't know. I think it's how you're structured. We can check with, I know Don Piat's leaving, but with CJC, it's kind of simple because it's just one entity.
Right.
But for you guys,
It would be ideal if it could be house specific, because each one of us own our homes and everybody will be in a slightly different position in terms of paying that fee. You know, and I know it can be in a normal betterment situation, it can be sold with the house to the new owners, and that would be preferential, I think, to us, if that's possible. Even if there's a fee that would have to be assessed, administrative fee, I think that still would be preferential to us.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Jane. My only concern on this is managing it.
I agree.
And
I understand it's complicated, so I'm not, and I'm thrilled it's moving forward, and whatever way it can be done, we'll figure out how to manage it, but I think we'd rather pay some sort of administrative fee to you guys to manage it than to have us with our management company try to figure that out. But
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that because I'm not, I think simple is better, particularly since it's going out 20 years, in 20 years, probably the three of us, the board members won't be here.
I
And
agree.
I don't want somebody having to, go to Egypt to find the records on how this thing was set up. So,
Okay. We're willing to work. 20
Yeah.
years is good, but it would just, it's because each person owns their home and you're dealing with the condo association, it's a slightly different situation than other, than a normal house or
yeah,
CJC.
I hear you, but the sewer department is not really set up to be a collector of fees. So
I agree. I'm just,
Yeah,
let's just
we'll
see
figure
how
it out. I'm not worried. I just, we'll
Okay.
figure it out.
Great.
Anything
Any
else?
other outstanding issues people can view that if Sean makes those changes and has them to you guys all, let's say in the next, I think they sound simple, in the next week, we move the Pam helps to move the easement along. We work on the, for better lack of a term, betterment or the timing over 20 years. Are there any other outstanding big issues that people see? Brian's working with the school that would hold us up from being able to go out to bid.
So, yeah, there's one small minor thing that has to be done is, you have to fill out an application and
Oh, it's fine. Okay,
so I
great.
think
It's time to do that. Great.
Yeah,
Lisa, maybe can you and I work on that?
I think once the easement is completed, it would be best to have the easement completed,
Okay,
final draft of your plans, and then the application,
Great.
which account for the total amount of privilege and hookup fee, and the application to be filed at that point.
okay.
The only other thing I can think of is the contractor that you hire.
Oh, of course.
Needs to be insured and bonded according to town standards if he's going to be working on school property. So I don't know, Brian, if maybe you can give them Sean some spec on that, or
We've already gone to the town, looked at what contractors you guys are on your quote unquote approved list. And that would be who we'd be working with. And Brian and Sean, we can run that by you before we go anywhere with it. I mean, we've started to throw a few names around, but we've already gone to the town. Gene Livingston, went to the town, looked at the approved list, and that would be where we're starting from. So of course you guys would need to approve whatever contractor. Is that what you're asking, Dan?
yeah, well, I'm not sure what the school will require. The school might have
Oh.
different requirements for work on
Okay.
their property.
So-
And that's why I referred to Brian.
Yeah, so I mean, I think that picking from the sewer drain layers list makes sense, if you can. Otherwise, that the contractor would have to become a sewer drain layer. But, you know, one thing I wanted to mention is that this work is planned, this is kind of a question, is this planned this summer? And if so, it needs to be done before school starts, obviously. And if there's, I think we talked about it before, if there's any issue with that schedule, they should start at the school and work their way back up the hill, or at least complete that prior to, even if they lay the dry pipe and then connect to it after the fact. So that is in my email to the schools, that the work is planned to be done in late summer and be complete by the, you know, at least on the school campus by the start of school. So
Great.
just,
That's always been our intent, Brian,
yeah,
because we were working against your schedule to pave the road, thinking we were going to go down the road. So we've always been in a place to try and get this pushed. And we're obviously up against it now. But one of our requirements in our RFP to the consultant is to be able to fit the work in, let's say in August.
yeah, and I would just put that as a contractual obligation to whoever
Absolutely.
does the work, that they need to be off the town layout on the school property by August 31st or Labor Day. whatever it
Perfect.
is.
So
That's
how,
great.
how far along are you then, if we've got this timeline? I believe it's going to be a full force main system. And have you gotten cost estimates already? Are you guys partway there, or are you going to start from scratch in July when the pumps arrive?
We've got we did an order of magnitude with a contractor to at least make sure that for the Cook Estates, the funding's in place. And I think they've had some early discussions with a few of those contractors on the drain layers list. I think more for scheduling than anything, you know, telling them it's roughly 2,000 linear feet of force main. Here's the 2 pumps that we're going to be installing, and the layout's going to be forthcoming. Now that it appears like it's final, we can go with that. And I think the contractors that they're going to be soliciting the quotes from are going to be the ones that are going to say, yeah, I can meet that schedule. Okay, well, here's the set of plans. Let's get a quote from you. So there's been those early discussions.
Okay,
I mean, we're ready to go out to bid as soon as you guys, you've had that plan now for 10 days, the 50 to 75% one. We get 2 comments back, right? So as soon as Sean can make those couple of changes, we'll get it back to you. And then the easement, the betterment discussion and the application, you know, we're ready to roll. And whether we can't write a check for the whole betterment amount day
Right.
one. But if, you know, just because that's however much money, you know, $30,000 times 27 is a lot of money. And I mean, where people know it's coming, but how that gets, if you will, financed over 20 years but I mean, there's nothing else that I can see holding us up to go out to bid, turn it around within 7 days, get it to you guys for review, and be ready to schedule it. We already authorized Sean to pre-order the pumps. As long as you guys are now in agreement with the pumps, the size of the pumps, and the exact what we need, we're ready to, you know, put those orders in so that that doesn't hold us up. So if somebody has something else that can hold us up, you got to let us know. But otherwise, we're ready to go as soon as you guys approve the plan that you have with those couple of changes that Sean will make.
so the process is, the easement is in place. You send your final plans with the application to us, and then we review it with Dan Coughlin. You'll get I'm sure you already have a copy of our rules and regulations for sewer. So if every client with those would start, as far as the contract for the 20-year payment, I mean, that'll be in process in parallel to what the construction plans are.
Great. So it's the easement. We're really the final plan and the easement, those 2 things. And a piece of it is on both sides. So we'll get that. And then I'll work with Lisa on the actual application part. And, you know, hopefully those all will come together, those 4 things at once.
Okay.
And I just a point of clarification, I'm thinking through the easement. What is the limits of the easement? Going to the property line of Cook Estates or extending onto the Cook Estates?
I can't answer that.
Yeah, Sean, was there anything conceived on that end or?
I mean, I envision it just being property line. It's across, it's from the common line from Cook and Heggie to the common line of Heggie and the school. Therefore, you know,
Okay.
that allows Cook to go onto their property. The school's already allowing Cook to go on their property, so, and then the agreement with the town to allow maintenance allows you guys to go onto Cook.
So we would be, the easement would extend onto Cook as well?
Well, no, I mean,
It's our-
they're entering into an agreement with the town to allow the town to maintain that. So, I mean, I think that's technically an easement, isn't it?
Right, and my only point is how far is the town going to assume responsibility? Does it stop at the Cook property line? Does it extend up the hill, including the air release all the way to the first pump? It's something to think about in terms of operation and maintenance down the road.
You guys need to tell us what you want and expect. And that can be, I mean, we're we're amenable to doing it how you guys want it done within reason. So, but I don't want to, you know, you guys have a copy of your lawyers have a copy, or the town's attorney has a copy of the current easement, which is between us and Heggie. If there needs to be some other addition to it to allow you guys to own the line up to our pumps on our property, and it's a different document, that's the first I've heard of it. And we're happy to have our lawyer work with yours, but
Yeah, I mean, the typical scenario for the town has been to maintain an easement over property that needs to be maintained to allow everyone to connect and
Yes.
do it. So it's only the Heggie property really that the town would be needing. But,
Right.
you know, you do have facilities on the property that would have to be maintained otherwise. So the air release at the top of the hill would need to be maintained. And the question is, does the town take that responsibility, or does Cook Estates maintain that responsibility?
I mean, you guys need, we're not experts. You need to tell us. And Sean, maybe you could weigh in on it. I don't, you know, I don't care which way we do it. It's,
I thought as part of this being installed, there was, my recollection was there's going to be an agreement between the town and Cook to allow the town to maintain it. That's why we were going with some of the higher up fittings, the stainless steel on the air release and the valves and the fittings. I don't know that it needs to be like a plan showing an easement. It's an agreement that says you guys are allowed or will come and maintain the system.
Brian, Joyce, if you have any opinion on it?
I'm sorry, I was just communicating with someone else. What's the question?
Brian,
Dan had a question on the easement. Is it total, or is it just over the Haggerty property, or is it including Cook, or where is?
my point, Brian, was we have an air release over on the Cook Estates. Is the town going to be maintaining that long-term? Or do we do like we've done with other easements and only do that portion that needs to be in place to secure everybody's connection? So typically that would just be the portion on the Haggerty property. You
So,
know,
I mean, to, I guess, ask a question on, you know, the other kind of shared services. I think North Cohasset and other ones, do we
Yeah.
own up to the last common connection, or do we?
we would have an easement extending across a property up to the last person's property line, typically. So in theory, we would stop at the Cook property. But there's, you know, there's that air release manhole that would need to be maintained. You know, But I mean, they also have pumps that they have to maintain. So I don't see a big issue with that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense just in keeping in line with past practices. Take it up to the property line on I forget what the address is, just downhill of Cook Estates, but that seems to make sense. And then everything beyond that is on their.
You guys, would it make
sense?
sense to get Greg Corbo, like a special meeting next week or something, to hear the engineers talk about this and hammer it out and just get him to write it up?
Yeah, this is as
Pam,
much a
you're reading
legal
my mind.
question as it is an engineering question.
All right, I'll bring that to Chris Senior today and say, look, we got to get this done. Can we get this guy to commit to a time next week to meet with you guys and just get this done once and for all?
That'd be great, Pam.
Yeah. And if he can have an answer for us tomorrow morning when we meet at 9, that would be nice.
Okay, will do. I'll work on that.
He'll probably, we probably should ask him for language for the agreement too, where the 20-year payment plan.
I figured
mean,
we'll hit it
and-
with that after we get this done.
That's fine.
We good?
We're good.
So, yeah,
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
thank
you.
you. Yeah, take care.
Thank you.
All right, next we have CJC. We have Mr. Stasko, Delisi, and Mr. Morgan. I'm going to promote them to panelists now.
And just for the board to know, I met Dan Coughlin and myself met last Friday in Don's office, and we went through the entire list of different items and got clarification for both sides.
Terrific. Yeah, I know you're the appointed liaison for this project.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Good. I was gonna just start by, I think the board might benefit from a little bit of an update from Donald as to where the project is at. And I think that what our goal today for this meeting is really to try and get on the same page, have a consensus as to the engineering on the site itself. I believe plans were submitted and Donald believes that they meet the criteria of the regulations. But I'll ask Donald to speak to that.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we submitted 390 and 380. We should be getting plans in another week for 400 for Dan to review. Everybody understands the procedure and the rules and regulations we have to go by. And we had a very productive meeting last week with Mr. Sawchuk and with Dan. And we are starting the 3A project this coming Monday, the 20th. They expect to have the project completed and hooked up by August 8th of this year. And I don't know if Wayne or Dan have anything else to add.
No, I'm all set with what we talked about. I will have a question though, and I'll ask it now. Before while your team is there, and that has to do with, we've got an inquiry from someone that is along the route of the gravity line on 3A and is interested in hooking up 2 houses. I'm not sure what a procedure is for that to potentially happen, and whether or not you as the contractor would be leaving a stub or something. And if it happens to be on if the pipe is in the road, does that mean that you can't get a trench from the road over to the the property. So in other words, what's the future procedure of someone connecting or wanting to connect? So you can, think about it and then answer it at the end of Dan's comments.
Well, I
Yeah,
think, I think that we'll probably need to talk to our engineers about that, and get back to you a response. But, this is a bit of an expensive project, so to go ahead and begin to put sewer in for third parties, we'll talk about it and we'll get back to you guys.
Yeah, my only point is this, there is some financial benefit to having other people
Yeah.
connect to the system. So, and it makes sense if you're doing that work to also put in the stub and actually extend the service if you can. And the only thing I would say is maybe the person who's doing the connection could pay into that to, to pay for the service stub placement.
Exactly. Yep.
I think anything on the west side will be the least complicated, any houses on the west side of the line. If anything houses on the east side, the engineering, and then you'd have to go back to the state to get permission. And, that'll take time to get all that permission from the state to go, to the east side of the road.
Yeah, I mean, it really all depends on where it is, but I mean, you have the hottest pot in front of you, so it's dropping a stub is usually not a big deal for that aspect, unless it's utility conflict.
Right. I would think anybody that's interested, the faster they get going, the cheaper it's going to be for them as we're doing work in the area. But it's getting all the permits and everything to do that. And, they have to go in front of you as the board because you're the controlling factor. They'd have to file a application with the board.
Wayne, maybe we can have a conversation where it is and see if it's something that can be possibly implemented quickly.
Yeah, I think I know which one it is. It's on the west side. It's presently a 2-family house. Is that right, Wayne?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
A representative of the owner is one that sent us an email. And we were going to discuss it at the next meeting, but I have no details in terms of
There's a 2-family house south of Crazy Paws, and that's probably my guess, but just communicate it back to us and we'll look into it. Yeah.
Right. And Mr. McNulty approached me about it since he knew it was going to be by him, and I said he'd have to talk to the sewer commission, so I don't know if he's the individual or not.
It's 466 and 468 Chief Justice Cushing Highway.
I think that's McNulty's then. So anyway, we don't want to be in the position of trying to make this a service that potentially connects every single house, because that's not the intent at all. And so that there really has to be something done quickly if someone even wants to think about it. And it really is between Dawn and a prospect before it comes to the sewer board. Okay. Dawn, you want to continue on your presentation?
Yeah, I think we've covered everything. Like I said, we had a very productive meeting with Wayne and with Dan last week, and we know what's got to be done, what's got to be submitted, and what Dan wants to review. And hopefully we'll have that next week for Dan to start his review on Stop and Shop.
Okay, so the main plans for 380 and 390 are all in conformance with our published rules and regulations. So that forward, is that correct?
There were a couple of comments that basically, I think Mike was just going to firm up.
Okay,
But, yeah, they're pretty much there.
so then they can get started on 380, 390, and then we're just waiting on separate plans for 400 for you to review.
Actually, some of the work on 380, 390 was already commenced, especially 390. But yeah, 400, we do need to have the final plans for.
Okay,
Yeah, so it sounds to me like what the to-do list is to get you the plans for 400. I think we have already reached consensus on 380, 390. We've started the construction. And then once you've reviewed the plans, Dan, then and have approved, then I think we can move forward. So.
Yeah, Jeff, there were just a couple of things. I think Mark was going to add a couple of notes or something to the plans just to have them complete.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So 380 and 390, I mean, just as a quick resubmission, but it should be pretty much all set.
Okay. All right. It's amazing how much more relaxed we are in these meetings than we used to be. Okay. Donald, anything else?
it's your casual attire that set the tone.
I know. I tried to get some natural sunlight behind me for the first time. I'm like a vampire.
I don't have anything else. I'd like to thank the board and Dan for their continuing presence and making this all happen.
Yeah, I think meeting in person with Wayne and Dan and going through these plans and the rules and regulations that have been published, I think have been extremely helpful. So I'd like to, hopefully, Wayne, you guys continue that as we move forward, just meeting in person and solving the problems.
I like the meeting in person.
As long as you have George there.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Paul and Wayne, just a point of clarification, tomorrow's meeting is at 9:30.
Oh, really? Okay. Sign up for you, then we got time.
Pardon me?
So we can sign up for yoga at 9. We got time.
Yeah, really? I've watched it. I'm not so sure I want to do that.
Just while you're talking about tomorrow, I have a water commission meeting that was kind of an emergency call for 9, so I'll be jumping on yours maybe a little later.
Okay, ours is in person.
Right. Well, you can start without me. I mean, it's I don't think you need me to start. I'll join you at, where are you, Wilcott?
Yeah.
So Chris and or maybe Michelle will be there.
Yeah, I hope, yeah, it'd be good if Chris was there. I don't, hopefully, so.
I'm gonna work. I'll work to confirm that today.
Yeah, I think it's wise for us just to get as much sort of, make sure that both towns are as committed as they can be for this, if they want to be, and then we can deal with it afterwards.
I apologize. I have to jump on another meeting with another Sawchuck on the Sandy Beach thing.
They're all over the place.
I'll catch you guys a little later. Is there any, before I do, is there any questions? Or as soon as I hear anything from the schools, I'll let you know on that. And Dan, if you wouldn't mind, send me your comments and I'll send you mine on the Cook Estate stuff.
Okay, you do have a couple?
Yeah, it was just basically the restoration and alignment. I understand why they can't go in the grass, but because there's a lot of lighting and electrical there, but it'll be a comment just so that they can consider it a little bit less pavement.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard the beginning part, but I'm asking him to discharge to a different manhole as well. The one coming down from the upper school.
Okay, yeah. So
Okay, there's one quick question, and that is, in the past, we've tried to go from, replace the E1 pumps and then give them to the customer, and then not have to have responsibility on those E1 pumps. And I'm wondering whether or not we really want to have part of our responsibility to maintain that collection system on the Cook Estate, which it sounds like we're going to do. I'd like to see them consider taking care of it and us just picking up the pipe responsibility from the property line to the school and the discharge, which is what we would normally do for a residence or another building.
Yeah, I think that's
So-
what we're talking about now. The only issue I had was the air release. It is an integral part of the force main, so there's two sides of the coin. You could extend it up to the air release and stop onto the Cook Estates, or you could just do what we normally do, which was stop at the property line.
Yeah, I agree. No pumps should be involved in this, in the town jurisdiction.
And
Well, just-
and Brian, a quick financial question. Pardon me. When does Dawn leave officially? Do you know?
August, but he's limited right now, doing 1 or 2 days a week. And if you have a specific question, I would just say email him,
Okay.
and copy me or Chris, and then he will follow up, but he's not, he doesn't have a presence here at Town Hall. And he's permanently gone after, I'll find out the date in August, but it's in August sometime.
Yeah, because we're gonna need somebody's sort of financial comment on how, how the betterment and the payments and things of that nature with the Cook Estate are going. So, because I would not be in favor of us managing 27 separate accounts to try to collect them and all of that. That'd be a
Yeah,
burden.
My recommendation is you charge the association.
And I think that the associate, I was going to question is if the association had if someone sells a unit, does the association have to sign off that any of the expenses and condominium monthly charges or annual charges, have they all been discharged? I think that would be what we'd want to do. So if someone sells a house next year, we're not having that burden put on the new owner going forward, because the bank is going to say, we don't want that responsibility if we have to foreclose on this mortgage. We only want to, so I think that it should be a betterment is today, for people that have betterments. So, that's just something I think that makes sense financially. So we're not in the banking business. So why should we wait 20 years for the entire amount, to be paid off, when in fact, having someone that needs to pay it off should be able to do that.
So that would only work if we consider the 27 units individually. If we have an agreement with the Cook Estate, then we would be billing them for 20 years, and they would have to bill the individual units as they deem fit.
But on the, we'd love to get one check, right? But that idea of the discharge of someone's cells is something that the condo association would also have to do that bookkeeping, meaning they would receive it and then they'd have to give it to us.
Yeah, I don't see that mechanism in place. I think that we either build Cook Estates for 20 years and they pay us, and then they go recuperate the funds from their property owners, or we bill the property owners directly, and if a property is sold, we recuperate the balance.
You may be able to put a clause in there that basically if a property closes and because of whatever, a mortgage or whatever, they want everything paid off, including the betterment, as part of that closing. If it's paid off prematurely or earlier, you could put a clause in there that the funds would be transferred to the town to reduce that overall burden. But it would have to be a different clause.
We're getting
Yeah.
into the weeds on this, and
No, we don't need to. I think that my position is to stay with the housing, the Cook Estate itself, however it's legally manifested, whatever they call it. They should be paying us every 20 years. We should not be going out and look, because I mean, I am sure like any institution, there are sort of different financial stratas within it, people who have it and people who don't have it, money. And we should not be chasing them. And what do? Shut them off? We can't.
Well-
So, it would be a nightmare for us.
All right, does the 27 houses get a separate water meter from the Cohasset Water Department today?
I believe so.
Yeah, I don't know.
Idea.
Because they're not in the business of having paying the water coming onto the state property and then then putting in meters in and everything else. I think it is such a simple thing to do. And it just has to be, we have to get someone that knows.
Well, look at it this, well, I'm going to look at it very simply. We're not getting 27 separate applications for sewer to go and an easement and all of that to go down to the Deer Hill School. I would say that we've started this with the Cook Estate, we finish it with the Cook Estate, and they as an entity can deal how they want to deal with it, they deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, we could put a clause in there that says, if the property is sold, that we get paid the balance of that individual home, but it's going to take administrative maintenance on that because, if it's a 1-bedroom home versus a 3-bedroom home, who's going to calculate all that and maintain?
And again, in 10 years, who's going to have the historical knowledge to say, oh, yeah, this is what we did, I'm not going to be here. I can guarantee you. So
27 houses, we know that one of the houses is 5 bedrooms. Is the Cook Estate entity going to pay for that extra bedroom over 4, or what's the deal? And houses that are two-bedroom houses, are they going to be charged just a half an EDU?
Right.
And and how is that whole thing going to be worked out?
But again, I think they need to do that themselves. I mean, I would suspect they're going to just, there'll be a large bolus, whatever it is, $900 and something thousand, then they'll hack it up amongst, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, 5-bedroom. I mean, I think it would be a burden on us, and we don't really have the manpower to do that.
Fine. It's just that we have to think about what's going to happen.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
We have 27 houses. Did we divide the 27 houses by 4 for EDUs? And is that EDU number what we use to calculate what maybe $900,000 or whatever? In other words, there's still some financial stuff to consider as we go through.
Right.
No, not going to hold up anything with the construction and stuff like that, because we know it's a problem. We have systems, we have to get.
Yeah, but again, our responsibility in this situation is to provide sewer to them, not to manage the billing of it. And I just think we say, okay, here's our bill, every year, this is what it costs. And yeah, I agree, Wayne, we have to figure out a way of, they're going to have to figure out a way how they build, 2, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms. I mean, if we add up all the bedrooms and calculate the EDU by that, and then we bill them divided by 20 and we bill them. Yeah,
So-
Brian?
I'll talk to Don about that. I'm going to jump if everyone's good right now.
I think Greg Corbo will give us some guidance on that as well.
And I can see somebody's got a hand up.
Hi, Bill. It's Alicia Babcock from Cook Estates. I
Oh.
just wanted to answer that question about the water meters for you. We all have individual water meters on our house, and we also have a water meter for the common areas for irrigation. So those are already in place.
Yeah, and are you billed by the town for each water meter, or is this?
Yes, we are. Each home pays a water sewer bill.
Yeah, so that would address the ongoing, billings based on usage, right? We wouldn't get into
Right,
that.
well, right. So I guess that was my next question is, since we all have accounts individually established already, wouldn't that simplify the accounting piece of this in terms of the betterment charges over a length of time?
It absolutely would, but there's some people in the accounting department of the town that think otherwise. They don't, it just has to be, the proper way is to have the people doing the bills for the sewer department and the water department, and then we use them. You know, this is not complicated, but we have people on Hingham Water and in Cohasset Sewer, and they are able to be getting billed for the sewer usage, you know, on one of the water department's invoices. So it's so simple, but it just,
Okay, thank you.
right, my opinion. Next,
Okay, we all done with,
yes.
okay, we have a wastewater treatment plant update.
So this was put on the agenda based on Dan's report, quarterly report. There was some action items. I'm not sure where those went, or who, if they went to Robin Scott. But anywho, I'll be quiet.
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm here. I did receive them. I'm not sure. I mean, do we want to go through and discuss them? And I'm not quite sure exactly what we want here. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about the past quarter from the facility. If that's what we're looking for, or we're looking to go over Dan's report. Your choice.
Well, I haven't seen a report like that for years, so I don't. I would love to have some just go over any on it, or whether it's something that Woodward and Curran does on a quarterly basis, and we
Yeah,
just.
no, that's, I think that's our report, Wayne, you're talking about. I mean,
Yeah.
that was one of the stipulations of our contract renewal, was basically do quarterly reports, which was basically an overall inspection of the treatment plant.
Okay.
Not so much the collection system components, but we did list those in there too. So we try to come up with that spreadsheet or overall list of different action items that we saw at the plant. And some of them are just, you know, capital improvements over a period of time. Some of them are ongoing items that Woodward and Curran is currently pursuing. But basically we you know, because there are a lot of aspects to it, we put together that spreadsheet just for tracking purposes, so that you know, what's open, what's closed, what remains to be done. And from my perspective, it was a good planning tool in terms of, you know, future expenditures, capital improvements, and you could, you know, try to plan accordingly. Now, I send that to Lisa, so I'm assuming Lisa distributes it. I'm not too sure, Lisa. It sounds like maybe you didn't, or Rob, you, and Scott, did you get copies?
I did receive it. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, I go over it with I forget the
Jake.
You know, Jake comes here. He's been here a couple times now. We kind of, you know, talk
Go
about
through the list. Yep.
Yeah, we go through the list. We talk about what we've, you know, fixed, what we've accomplished, where we are with certain things, and then we walk the plant, and he jots stuff down and you know, sends Lisa the report, and you know, we got the report. Yeah, to me, it's beneficial to us. You know, we've got a nice ongoing list of what needs to get done, and then we're able to knock them out, go by the list.
Yeah, I mean, we as the work gets done, we do close out items, and you know, during the meetings, the quarterly meetings that we have with Scott, he does, you know, bring up some new issues, and those go on the list. So it does tend to grow a little bit because we leave the old stuff on there, but at some point in time, maybe on an annual basis, we'll close out or remove the ones that are closed, just so you have some history there. But I think there's benefit for the board to see all the different things that are ongoing with the plant and some of the things that need improvements. Even from the perspective of the collection system, which we really don't, we don't do physical inspections of the pumping stations. Our job was basically to review the plant, but there are some capital improvement items for the pumping stations too that need some work. The landscaping aspects, the fencing, even some of the mechanical components, are getting old at this point and need improvement. The high school pumping station, still has rust issues and really, that aspect needs to be addressed a little bit more. So it's something for the board to review. If you have any questions, we can certainly discuss them. Obviously, when Scott and Robbie here too.
This
Is
was,
there anything on a critical path that we have to address immediately?
this was specific to the plant though, right?
Primarily, I mean, we do have a conversation with Scott regarding the pumping stations. Occasionally, we'll drive by and see what the overall condition is, but this is primarily the influent pumping station and the treatment plant.
Yeah, because I was looking for an update on, we approved $80,000 at town meeting for the upgrade to Tupelo and Deer Hill. Where do we stand on implementing any of that?
So currently we have all the equipment on order. The pumps are on order, check valves are on order. So the mechanical equipment is on order. We've reached out to the Woodard and Current SCADA team that put together the instrumentation quote. So they have that stuff on order. So everything for Tupelo is on order. We're just unfortunately waiting on things to arrive. The last update that I got was everything with the exception of the pumps should be in June. The pumps are expected at the end of September. I know they really would like to hook up in August, Stasco, but I mean, we're not even receiving the pumps till the end of September.
Okay, Deer Hill.
Deer Hill is just waiting for school to be out. When school's out, we have the new pumps here for it. Again, Woodard and Curran knows that once Tupelo is all set, they're gonna, or maybe they're in conjunction, they'll be ordering all the same parts because it's the same, basically same instrumentation. And we'll have that changed out as well. Deer Hill, we really have all the stuff. We're just kind of waiting on school to be out to do the work.
Okay.
Is the pump at Deer Hill, can that be used at Tupelo Road?
No, two totally different.
Too easy, yeah.
And in my plan, I mean, we have two brand new pumps at the facility right now, and we have one pump that we're still using at Deer Hill. In my opinion, we're gonna put in one brand new pump and continue to run on the pump that's still working at Deer Hill, leave the brand new pump here. If and when that one fails, we will have a backup on site ready to go.
Yeah.
So.
Were the slide rails changed yet, Scott?
I'm sorry?
Are the slide rails going to be changed at that time too?
The slide rails will be changed at that time too, yep.
So there seems to be a little bit of issue because of the September arrival of those, the end of September arrival of those pumps versus when Don Stasco plans on starting his discharge. Obviously, the start of his discharge is probably going to be phased a little bit in terms of 380, 390, and then what he anticipates is then later on 400. Is there anything that we can do to those pumps now to make sure they're a little bit more reliable if they indeed start discharging in August?
Not inexpensively, no.
Yeah, short of overhauling them all, I don't really think so.
Yeah, I mean, we have one, so we have two pumps there. We have one pump that I'm probably gonna jinx myself right now, but we're not experiencing issues with it. That pump runs, it's running 2 hours a day. The other pump, I can make it run if necessary. The problem is it's losing prime. So it needs to be managed. So I would say, no, we really only have one pump there right now. So any increased flow is just gonna add runtime to a pump that's already old. But
It's
only running 2.5 hours a day. So
You know why it's losing prime, Scott?
I don't know. We're in there. I try to do something to it. You go back the next day, it gives you something different. It's a different troubleshoot. I just, we haven't been able to spend a whole lot of time out there at the moment. Due to other things that are going on. And, you know, like I said, that other pump's working. We're not experiencing any problems with it, so we're hoping and praying pumps come in and we get them all set up and life will be good again.
What's the schedule for Deer Hills installation and upgrading that pump system? Are you planning on doing it in June or July?
It will probably, it's gonna be done on Rosano Davis's schedule. They know that I want to do it as soon as possible when school ends. So school's gonna be over, what, the end of June?
Yep.
You know, it's, Deer Hill should be done way before Tupelo, really. You know, we're gonna be waiting on our instrumentation stuff to come in and be installed. The pump's ready to go, you know, the rails ready to go. That's an easy installation. We're just waiting on parts
So
for instrumentation.
July and finish July?
I would say by the end of July is a fair time frame. Yep. That with the caveat that they don't have any issues getting any type of instrumentation and all that kind of stuff. I have not heard back from them as a time frame yet.
Okay, because the plan is for Cook Estate to get approved here. They're going to start at the Deer Hill and work their way to Cook. So we're not going to start at Cook and come down the hill, you know, a month or two later and then Deer Hill. They're going to start at Deer Hill, work their way to Cook. So you need to get done for them to start.
Yeah, so internally, we've opened up the out of scope phases and tasks, one for Tupelo, one for Deer Hill. And we've talked to Doug Terrell and asked him to put into motion the instrumentation and controls.
Okay.
So let me go, I got stepped on a little bit earlier, but to Scott and Dan, on this review list I haven't looked at, is there anything on a critical path that we have to deal with immediately?
I say no. We don't really have it at the facility. We do not have anything that is mission critical right now that's down and we need to act right now on. That's today. You can ask me again tomorrow. It might be different. Stations are our biggest, gonna be our biggest headaches right now.
There's two priorities that stick in my mind. One is the influence sluice gate to the pumping station. I don't think you have any way of isolating that station with that sluice jammed up. So that's a little bit of a concern. And the other concern would be obviously the grit screw. Because my fear is, you know, we haven't been removing grit from the system for a long period of time. I'm a little fearful that maybe some of that grit's in the aeration tanks and, you know, if it builds up, it could be a problem.
Yeah, that's not entirely true. I mean, we do remove grit once a year. That gets taken down. We dewater it. We remove the grit that
You
accumulates.
take it out, right?
But yes, it's not being removed actively. Agreed.
Okay. Yeah, it's just the volume that we used to pull out versus the volume that's, you know, resident in that unit. There is a big difference, so.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, and I would love to have it fixed. You know, here's the issue we've been having for 20 years here. Who do we get? I can call Lakeside and tell them to order us a brand new screw. Who's going to install it? I can't get anybody to make doors or install doors. I can't get anybody to get a crane back here to install that stuff. I mean, my hands are up in the air. I don't know what to do anymore. Nobody wants to come down here and do this stuff. For me, maybe you guys have other contacts, you guys have other, you know, but I've been working with Brian to get these doors replaced. We almost had them replaced and things happened and now we have no doors again. So it's the same way with the grit screw. We had the money for it and we used it for something we really needed. Now we have the money again, but we don't have the screw and we have nobody to install it.
Yeah, and I had understood you were contacting DNC. Did they not want the job or?
No return phone, no return, no nothing, no. I can only reach out to somebody so many times, Dan, before I just give up. You know, I don't have that kind of time to just keep reaching out.
Okay,
It's the main reason why I don't have a roof yet on the influent building. They don't call me back. He gives me a quote, I approve it, they don't call me back, they don't want to schedule. So
Let me see what I can do for you on that.
that would be phenomenal.
So do you have the doors? You just someone to weld them in place?
Now, we had somebody to make the doors and for a variety of reasons, he could not make them anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, I sympathize with that because I had a welder in a shop guy who were putting together a quote. I'm still waiting on the quote.
Yeah, you know, that's just been, and I know that's the norm right now. That's the world we live in right now. I get it. But it's frustrating on this end when we're trying to get stuff done, and every month I have to tell you guys that, nah, I can't get it done. It's not for lack of trying, I promise you that.
But do you get any support from administratively from your company to help do these things?
Oh, absolutely. Our company is contacting people as well. I mean, we just don't have anybody that can make doors. If we had the doors, you know, it might be a different story. You know,
Well, you said you were throwing your hands up because you're constantly contacting people and trying to chase people, and it's not the best use of your time. So I didn't know if there was somebody administratively, you know, offsite somewhere that could be doing that for you.
I'm doing the same thing all the time, Paul.
Yeah.
Scott and I are in contact multiple times a week.
Okay.
We've reached out to Leiden, we've reached out to everyone and his brother.
Yeah.
The doors are the most frustrating. Could we put that on that state bid site? To see if that would attract anyone?
It was honestly, Rod, it was Michelle put that on there years ago. I mean, it certainly could be done again. I'm not trying, but I remember Michelle putting it on that years ago. Nothing. I don't know.
Maybe we just need a couple of big pieces of canvas and just drape it.
You know, that's just don't mind when the heating bill goes up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to bring to the board's attention is the flows, as far as the average daily flows. Our permit basically, you know, looks at a 12-month moving average, and although, you know, flows tend to be higher in the springtime, we are above that 80% mark in terms of that threshold that everyone looks at all the time. So we were around 366, I think, gallons per day, which is above the 80% mark. You know, at some point in time, DEP is going to say, you know, what are your future plans? And, you know, I talked a little bit with Paul about the facility planning aspect, or comprehensive wastewater management planning aspect.
Yep.
There's two different triggers that are moving you in that direction. One is basically if you do anything regionally, the South Main Street extension, and also this flow limit or flow threshold. So you are due now for a comprehensive wastewater management plan, and you know, the need for it is probably going to be realized by the end of this year.
Dan, do they base that on a monthly thing, or if you hit that number one time in that 12 months, that's it? Like if we have a high month drop off next month or the following month and the average drops down, is it too late? You've already, you crested it 1 month, or?
No, not at all. They've really softened it a lot. So now it's basically whatever it is in December for the 12 previous months. So it's more like a calendar year average now.
Okay. All right.
So if next December we hit that threshold, this last December we were below it.
Yeah.
But my guess is this next December we're going to be above it, and we're going to hit that threshold.
Okay.
So something interesting that's going on now with the tidal gate stuck in the closed position. The flows have dropped to 270,000 gallons consistently.
Yes, that was very good timing, Dan, on your part. About
Yeah.
flows.
So are you you guys saying INI?
Yeah.
Correct.
And the marsh.
That March, so I found out maybe what, a month and a half ago, the gate's been in the broken closed position, meaning the marsh never floods anymore, never increases. And we went from, and I know they vary a lot, but March, April, May of this year, it was like 359, 320, and then May, we went to 270. June, where we're halfway through June, the average flow is 260. We did, between the past couple rain events, we've done almost an inch of rain. We've seen nothing, seen 270,000 gallons last night. So it may be, I know we talked about cameraing that marsh, and there was some workings going on with that. That may be something that's highly important to do sooner rather than later, especially with them moving that manhole down there. Maybe it's a good time. It just seems a coincidence that the gate's been closed, the marsh doesn't flood, and my flows dropped 40,000 gallons overnight.
Yeah, I think we should put that piece, Scott, on the next agenda of the meeting, at least if you would do that, about cameraing the marsh.
Yeah, I mean, past Camarians have always looked at that, and the pipes are pretty good. They're clay pipes, you know, they're only like 3 feet long. So there's a lot of joints. But the camera said the pipe integrity is pretty good, and the joints don't appear to be very leaky. But if you put a lot of water surcharge in that marsh, that could change. In other words, those gaskets on the clay pipes are good to a certain pressure. But if you do flood the marsh for a tidal base, that's when you could start seeing a lot of that flow. So if you do the TV work, it would actually be good to do it when the marsh is full. You know,
Does anyone know if the town is trying to repair the gate, or if maybe it'll become sort of a door situation like we have with the plant, and they don't do it? I mean, do we know if they're ever going to have that thing working?
I think it'll probably be
Yeah, I
replaced.
do not, sorry.
Is the gate next to the Legion?
Yeah,
Across the street, yeah.
across the street, right next to the memorial there.
Yeah. Is any of the construction there on Elm? I know we looked, Dan, you went down there, looked at the construction for Elm. I forget if it's 87 Elm right there on the corner there. Is any of that going to be affected? Because that's right on the marsh.
Yeah, I mean, what they're talking about doing is basically tearing out a couple of our pipes and putting in new pipes over in that area. So, I mean, obviously that would take care of things, but the issue I had is that's where we always used to TV that line. And we're not going to have access to that for the TVs. So it's going to be difficult. So if we
Why
want to do it,
Why
time
not?
is of the essence. Because they're putting a building in it.
But isn't there a way of getting into that pipe via manhole?
You can get into the pipe via manhole, but you can't bring the TV truck up to the manhole.
Oh,
Yeah, you have to go through the garage if it's low
And
enough.
you can't get one of those trucks through a garage.
We're going to work on easement to the left side of the property as you look at it. I don't know if they did or not.
yeah. I mean, I don't think we should be hamstrung by this. I mean, it was obviously, you know, we should be cooperative with what they're doing, and they are with us. But I guess I didn't realize that.
Well, you only have so much, rights. You have an easement around the pipe and that's it. You don't really have access easement to the pipe in that area. So they've been granting you access over their parking lot to do this type of work in the past, but you've never had that right before, you know.
And there's no other way we can get to it. I mean, they couldn't do it the other way.
Yeah,
from the-
there is a right of way that comes down with the pipe coming off of Elm Street, but that's over someone's lawn and there's fences and shrubs in the way. And it's not.
We do it the other way from the plant.
Yeah, Brian walked the easement that's there, and he said there's no way you're going to take trucks through these properties.
They're really close together down there.
Yeah.
Dan,
Yeah.
You can't do
Can
it from
they-
the plant, but you're going upstream, which is difficult.
can they make either one of the service connections that were behind that former store there, that they had 2 lines, one going to each one? Can one of those or a new one, when they do the building, be put in to basically connect onto the main drain, even if it goes through their parking garage or something, out to the edge of the road? So in fact, we could just take the cover off, put the camera in and go through and do something like that, because that would be a simple way to help us in knowing whether there's going to be problems back there or, or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, what it would involve is probably putting in a new pipe and a manhole that serves no other function except for access for the TV camera. And you could probably relocate that in such a position to avoid their foundations, which was the problem with the ones that exist now.
But
Yeah, but-
if you're putting a manhole, do you have to put a full-size manhole in for, because they're just snaking like a fiber optic cable through it, right?
No, it's not a fiber optic cable. It's a crawler.
Uh,
So it's a full 8-inch pipe and bends don't work. So yeah, it's typically a full manhole.
So we'll put this on the agenda for next month, Bill, the gate and what's happening
Yeah, I mean, if we could put another manhole in, that might be
Yeah.
the way to do it, so.
in reference to the marsh. Yeah.
That's not a bad idea, Wayne. I'll take a peek at it, see if there's something that might work.
Thank you.
You know, they talked about getting an easement from the neighbor on the left side as you look at the property. Because there's still grass there. There was, I forget what it was, 6 or 8 feet or 10 feet. So I don't know if they talked to them about an easement on that property or not yet.
Yeah, there were some trees there, but I think we want to get as close to the brook as we can.
Yeah, this was Brookside that he was gonna try and get an easement on.
And let me ask you another stupid question. What if the gate was open? Can we go through the water side of it and snake through it that way?
I'm not sure I follow you. What gate?
Well, I mean, so we're getting water in from, actually, there's no pipe, so no, I'm gonna answer my own question. So there's no pipe to that piece. We're getting water from infill, okay. I'm just trying to think of another way we could attack this thing.
I mean, one thing down the road for that pipeline, it might be just lining it, you know? Sometimes that's a good solution for these clay pipes.
Didn't we line some of it closer to the plant? When we,
No, we lined over near the Legion years ago.
okay. Well, let's
We
see what it
replaced, when they were doing James Brook over with the Gambians, we replaced the portion underneath the stream, I think, with PVC.
Okay.
Or had it replaced.
All right.
All right. Well, I guess we're good with that, and thank you, Scott. Thank you, Rob.
So I think Pam had a question, not a question, but maybe a question, Pam, regarding the CSCR volunteer. So there's a CSCR volunteer doing beach sampling. And so I guess the question to everyone would be, where would be a good spot area on the Gulf to do that sampling, take the sampling from?
Oh, maybe like the floated government island. And then I'm going to do it just from my own observations. I would say the floated government island, there's a little dock float right on the sort of east side of the Cunningham Bridge, Board Street Bridge rather. And then I'd also say at the yacht club.
What about the end of Parker Avenue?
Yeah, I mean,
That's more from Situate, but
yeah, but I can also tell you though that, I was out there a week or so ago fishing on the incoming, actually the full tide outgoing. And that government aisle area right there, you're going to see stuff going by. It's gross. And if you get a large rain event and go into any of the slip areas at the yacht club, you don't have to take a sample to tell what's there.
Mm.
There was an EPA study done several years ago with, thought it was with CSCR as well, but they did do some sampling along the Gulf, and it's particularly at some drainage discharges as well. And my recollection is that he did pick up a significant amount of bacteria. But that one might be a source, is that original EPA study, to kind of duplicate some of those locations. So you may be able to get that from CSCR. I can take a look to see if I might have a copy of it. I'm not sure.
Okay,
All right,
all right, I'll connect with Pam after the meeting and see what we can come up with too.
whatever's best, you know. So they just want access, or what do they want to do?
She was just asking for where would be a good area to sample.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, Wayne, I missed what you had said. What area did you say that may have been part of Situate?
Well, when you're at the end of Parker Avenue, you're going up, what I'm gonna call the Gulf that way, but under the bridge, of course, you're getting the more of a direct connection onto the coming off of North Situate and stuff coming that way.
Okay.
Isn't that right, Bill?
Yeah, well, I mean, that the water that goes up to turn towards this marina is coming basically from the harbor and then goes around all the way around up to Hatherley. I know people who can. I haven't done it myself, but you can, at a real high tide, you can kayak without a problem all the way around from the Parker Ave area all the way out to Hatherley and get into the harbor that way.
Right. Okay. So it makes part of that land, like Border Street, more like an island or a peninsula.
Yeah.
Because water on on both sides. So it's important for them, like CRCS, whatever, to sample, in both of those areas, go up with a small boat, or actually you could probably go into North Situate, by those condos there and the grist mill, and take some samples there, a lot less flow. And then you can go over to Hadley Road, or just go up, Border Street into Situate and get down by the end there where you're seeing more, less flow, like the other situation. So
yeah, you're right. I don't know what it's on. It would be on Gannett Road. There's a little conduit bridge, but at high tide, you can see it goes all the way up past Hatherley on the right hand side of Hatherley Golf Course. So
yeah.
God knows what's coming out of there. I don't know. So
right. Tomorrow, one of the things we might ask is, what issues does Situate have now, and how can we help clean up the water, so that we're putting cleaner water into our harbor than the water that's already coming in from other sources.
Right.
And that, and that's too bad.
Yep. Okay. We done with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
What else we have to do? So the last item on the agenda is to go over invoices with Dan. And just for the record, Dan, I'll tell you that we had talked to Greg Corbo twice about doing this as an executive session. But we were told that we couldn't do it. So, I'm trying to, I don't know if I have these in date order or not.
Well, there's page one of what was sent that says the AR aging detail Cohasset as of June 1st.
Oh, so I actually have all of his invoices here with me.
This, we just have the, from Dan, from his ledger.
Okay.
So, and by the way, there's a number of things here, like for instance, the Cook Estate support and stuff. That really should be accounted for as part of the Cook Estate, but it would probably be that a certain amount of those expenses are being covered by the the fees, but I'm not sure. You know, are we going to consider giving them a bill separately for our oversight of their engineer? Or is it going to come out of, you know, we're going to just dedicate a certain amount of money out of the fees that they're paying to do it? And then,
Doing CJC is we're directly billing what Dan bills us over to him.
right, but my question is, are these bills here, and Lisa might be able to tell us, any ones that are talking about Stasco sewer extension, you know, et cetera, are they being picked up already? Or is that something that we haven't necessarily been doing? And that's for Lisa. How do you take care of the particular items in terms of what accounts that we have do they go through?
So based on the agreement that we had with Dan, we have open POs for the separate items that were in his agreement. Stasco's was not one of those because this was prior to all of that, but we did end up adding something, keeping CJC stuff separate, but not on an open PO. So we were just paying those as they came in.
Right, but are we charging Stasco for those items?
The ones that are on Stasco's, yes, we are. But the ones, okay, so the open invoices that we have right now are from January, February, March, April, and now May.
It's June now.
Right, but we haven't been billed for June yet. And it's not, so if you look at the email that I sent with, I believe Bill had marked up some of the invoices. That was part of that email. If you look at the PDF copy. Let me see if I can find it on my email.
And I think there are, and I'll tell you in a second. There are 15 pages. No, not 15, 14 with comments. And I think maybe to expedite this discussion, a lot of them are, well, many of them are charges to, like, say, charging a half an hour. I'm looking right at 5th of May, set up a meeting with Wayne Sawchuck to review comments, half an hour. And then the time to do responses to the Donald Stasco and his group about CJC invoices. And again, just so that everybody is on the same page with what happened. We had Dan showed up, came into, no, it was a Zoom call with Lisa and I, probably the beginning of May, that we went over all of the ones that I sent to you. The things that sort of stuck in my craw a bit were the amount of money that was being charged to us, and time and money, to review the questions that were posed by Donald Stasco on invoices. And then you can rebut this, Dan, certainly. I asked Dan about that, and he said, well, he went into very in-depth, piece. My opinion is all he had to do was answer it, but we didn't need a soliloquy on it. And that's one side of it. But the other side of it is, somebody asks a consultant about a question about their invoice, they do it. I've never personally ever in 35 years of being a consultant ever charged a client for my phone call, and or if they have a question about my invoice, or the question about my deliverables, or a question about something else, I don't charge them for it. Now, that might be just me, but I have an issue.
I don't either.
What?
Yeah, I don't either. This
See,
was a little different though with CJC. I mean, CJC had this long list. They wanted documentation, they want copies of plans, copies of reports, copies of summaries. I mean, they wanted a lot of information, and I think I had indicated to the board that this was
Shouldn't have done it. Should have just said, no, we're not going to give it to you unless you pay for
exactly what I said, but
it. To whom?
no, then you wanted Greg to finalize a draft back to him, and then you came back to me and said, answer them all. And I did that, and I said, it's gonna take 30 or 40 hours, and
Is there an email to that effect somewhere?
no, this was our conversation when you had me go back and answer all the questions. So I put together that whole package. It was 200 pages long, the plans and everything else, and gave it to Greg. And Greg ended up agreeing with what I said in the beginning, that it was, excessive.
We're
And
not, yeah,
He wasn't
we are going to have to eat that. I'm just telling you, because he is not going to pay for it, and I don't expect him to have to pay for it.
Yeah,
I didn't think we should have responded to it, to be honest with you.
yeah, in general of going over all of the invoices, I'm in that same camp as Bill with the business environment that I'm in as well. With your fees and whatever your hourly rates are based on the level of people that you put on different things, your overhead is in there. And it seems like on these bills, you're charging us above and beyond that on some of these administrative issues. So I do agree with Bill that I don't think that, responding back to an email or getting a phone call back or, calling to get topical documents for South Main 4 times and billing us a half an hour for each time. I don't think that is reasonable for us to pay. I think that in the course of doing business, you're following up on things that help you get a project done in which you're billing us those hourly rates. You're also billing us for every minute of the day of things that you're thinking about or doing or making a phone call for, which should be part of your overhead expense. And that overhead expense is already in your fee of $150 or $75. So I kind of see a conflict there in the billing when it comes to those issues. It's not a law firm where we're calling on a phone and asking for advice. We're not doing that here. We're asking you to follow up on projects and things in which you then follow up on, and then you execute your administrative workload on that project and then bill us for it. So that's where I see a conflict on the billing.
I understand what you're saying, Paul. I mean, first of all, I do not charge you for any questions or responses of bills I sent to the sewer commission. That other one was separate. That was excessive, and they wanted all kinds of things to go with it, and it was going to take significant amount of time. In terms of the other things, typically we, on a historical base, we would have projects that we would be, moving forward on. We've, over the course of the last couple of years, we really don't have those projects anymore. Everything's been either put on hold or suspended. There's really not a lot that we work on besides what we, have for these individual items. So, I mean, we are kind of put into a position where we only respond to directed questions, and that might involve a call, it might involve doing historical research on something. So it's become a very, very difficult thing. I can't put it into overhead if there's no project to build to begin with, you know what I mean? So we are kind of limited,
So that point, Dan, you've got an invoice that was sent to us on the 9th of June under the Stasco Sewer Extension. You're setting up a meeting with Wayne Sawchuck. I believe it was a telephone conversation, and you're billing us a half an hour for that. You've got, and I'm just going to go back to another one on the.
Yeah, I mean, that was also sending Wayne the information, which was basically plans, historical documents, my comment list, the response back from Nagrati. That's essentially the components that went to setting up that meeting. I mean, I typically only charge those half-hour intervals. That's our minimum interval for billing purposes. We don't charge by the minute like an attorney. But sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And I kind of accumulated in my own mind, you know, have we accumulated enough time here to bill a half hour? And that's the way I approach it. And, you know, if you want to go back and look at them, I can tell you what was kind of involved with some of them, but you know, I don't think, I feel that the hours that we have allocated are reasonable and appropriate, and there is work beyond what is written in the, you know, the 5-word summation. In most of these cases.
Let me go back to a specific one here. On the 21st of March, you've got an invoice sent to us for 2,700 and change. On the 3rd of March, you confirm that there is a stop work order.
What invoice are you in? Bill?
I'm looking at 5294 on the 21st of March.
Okay.
So on the 3rd, you confirm that there is a stop work, confirm with Bill, stop all work and send, or something, stop all work, send Corvo agreement.
Yep.
Okay, so stop all work. Now there are 4 additional charges below that for follow-up requested review of Corvo email, continue response to questions, and that continue response to questions, continue
Right.
response to questions.
That is after you had called me and told me to respond to all the questions from CJC and give those to Corvo. So I stopped all of the other work, but when you called me and asked me to basically answer all the CJC questions, provide all the information to Corvo, that's what I was working on. And that was the part of that 30 to 40 hours I indicated it was going to take to properly respond to that package.
Okay, well, I don't remember a lot of things. This is one of them. So, okay.
You called me back. It was probably on the 22nd.
Oh, never mind, I'll hit it later. Well, I don't know what we're gonna do about all the charges for Stasco, because he's not gonna pay him, and it would be a waste of our time to bill him.
Well, I
Anything that's under, and I'm not saying all of them, I'm just saying the time it took to respond to questions, and I didn't see what was delivered, so that, to be fair, but
Well, first of all, have we put in a request to get paid for the 4 items that are here that represent probably $7,000?
Well, yeah, you mean the ones with that generated the questions?
No, I'm saying is on Dan's receivables list.
Oh, I don't have that in front of me. I have the actual invoices.
There
Go
are,
ahead.
there
I'm
are,
sorry.
you know,
So Wayne, we went through these with Corbo. And we did agree that we were going to credit some of these charges to Mr. Stasco.
Mhm.
And I don't have the email in front of me right now, but it was, and I should have brought it. I'm sorry, I'm not prepared for that question.
Yeah.
We did.
Okay. So that,
So
Just from,
you have a list.
yeah, from my perspective, I mean, Corvo did not use that material. He came just to the general conclusion again that this was excessive. There's proper detail on the invoices, and that's all you need. So, yeah, I think it would be very difficult to get Stasco to pay for something that he never received in terms of a response.
It wasn't just
All I
that
can say is
instance, but
you do have his payment into the system, you know, as far as, you know, which would cover some of the administrative costs. I mean, I think we talked about the collection system. When we looked at the collection system, when we looked at the pumping station, what what upgrades should be charged to him and what shouldn't. I mean, some of these are basically, just needs and repairs that the system would need regardless of the connection. And obviously, I think the opinion was that, maybe you don't charge those to Stasco, you just, charge him the stuff that would be applicable to his flow. So, I mean, you do have these other costs, they have to come from something, and I'm assuming they would come from his connection fee, which is, the reason for doing everything.
Right.
I don't think Bill's question was really, what we are charging Stasco for versus what the sewer commission needs to absorb as a regular administrative cost. I think he's really saying, why are these costs even being incurred? If we're asking you a couple of simple questions, how does it turn into a $6,000 invoice? So I think we're wrestling with, these things every 2 weeks with you're fully engaged and you're being paid to attend these meetings, and the information that comes from these meetings is part of that expense. And then during the course of the week, we get these invoices for you, generally following up on things that you feel need to be followed up on based on our meetings. And I think that's what's kind of catching us a little bit by surprise. It seems that there's subject matter redundancy that I think is causing us to question some of the invoicing. So I think we need more clarification on your end, Dan, prior to any commencement on certain billing, so that we can have the clarification prior to you getting started, so we don't end up sitting here wondering, I thought we addressed this already. Why are we getting paid? Why are we getting billed for it again? So I think that's really the issue here, Bill.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that's, that it's that, and I think, I'm not going to go through every single one of them, and some of these, Dan, we went through before, but regarding the, back on the 21st of March, you have 5 separate instances of charging us for CAD plans and TIF. I don't know what happened to them, but it just is listed as CAD plans and TIF. I don't know who told you to do this work on the preliminary sewer. I know we talked about South Main Street, but I don't think there was ever a directive to actually do it. And there's $3,000 worth of work effort in there.
Yeah, I mean, I did send out all the CAD plans that we did. Everyone got those, correct?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
I think that's not the
converted them
question.
to PDFs and sent them to everybody.
Right.
Yeah, but
That's not-
we never asked you to do that, though, is what you're saying.
Yeah, again, this is a prior existing task that we had started on. It was put on hold because the regional study was going on. And then last fall, there was a discussion at the meeting of, that we should start the South Main Street extension. And at that meeting, I brought up that we had requested several times for the topo. And that was what was holding us up in terms of developing plans, because we didn't want to have to do additional survey. And at that point in time, the board directed me to get the additional topo from the town, which took several months. I finally got that. And when we did get that, I started to incorporate it and make up the base sheets for the plans.
Right. And in those times when you were trying to request those topographical studies or whatever, you were billing us for your time to do that, right?
Yeah, I did that specifically. I try to group that in with other stuff that we had, but I did that specifically in the invoice, just so you know that how many times I tried.
I see, I'm going to stop talking after this one, but the biggest problem is, if I don't know who Don's replacement is going to be, but whoever it is, I suspect will have as keen an eye. But Don would ask me questions about these things, and I had no idea how to respond to them. And I don't like to. Personally, I don't like to be put into a position where I'm muted before I can answer the question. So I don't know. I mean, it's almost too much. And I'm just going to give you, from my sort of business sense, we bill by a chunk. So like if we have a project and it's got a X budget, we budget by phase, whether it's a percentage of completion of that phase, or if it's some sort of time and material on that phase, but
Right, but, you know, I'm pretty much operating on a T&M base for you for different tasks as time goes on. I don't have a set construction contract. I don't have, you know, specific tasks that you're doing right now. You know, South Main Street was one thing, but that's on hold. I do have some work on CJC and Cook, but that's limited. So if there's any other mechanism, you know, we used to have a general thing that would basically allow us to bill when we're responding to the different commissioners on any issues or providing information or responding to Lisa. And you know, we've tried to separate that now into, you know, 14 different categories. So
well, I don't think there's 14. I think there's about 5 or 6. And that was done so that we could have a way of tracking specific efforts on your part into certain financial buckets.
Right,
Because
but
that's what Don wanted us to do.
we listed a cap though, didn't we? Didn't we
Yes, we
say
did. Yeah, yeah.
only not to exceed 2,000, not to exceed?
Whatever, yeah, yeah, exactly.
So I think that someone forgot about the cap, or, you know, no one's calculating, have you exceeded it? And, you know, how, you know, out of the, you know, the 9 or 14 sections that we have on there, we got a PO for each one of them, or a contract number for each one of them, you know, where do we stand? I mean, the purpose of doing that was to track each little project to make sure that, the projects are getting completed and what the cost is per project, and what is budgeted at. So I don't see there's been any follow-up to the contract as far as, I know he's billing us against those numbers, but where are we on budget? Are we 50 there, 80% spent? You know, I don't know.
yeah, we do have about 14 different projects, I think,
Yeah.
currently now, but some of them do have the limits, you know, like the quarterly report. You know, the quarterly report has certain limits. You know, some of the other aspects have certain limits, but some don't. Like CJC and Cook Estate really don't have limits. It's responding to what is needed for the project. So, I mean, if you want to set some limits, that's one thing, but there are none currently on some of those.
No, and I think we can acknowledge that on Stasco or Cook, there are no numbers. It's just, you know, whatever. But
I mean, usually we look at the overall budget for the year. I don't know what you're allocating now for the consulting services. It was like 60 or 80 or something like that. I don't know, 70. I'm not really sure what it was. I mean, this is basically close to a half a year, and it's a little bit high because of some of the you know, the Stasco items, but it's not extremely out of budget. I'm not sure if Lisa
So
can tell us the overall budget.
yeah, so I guess I'll ask the board this question. Stasco is not going to pay these charges, okay, to this question. So what do we do?
Well, we absorb them, and I think that I'm not overly concerned about them because we are getting, you know, the $1 million in privilege and hookup fee. So, you know, we've got the money to cover that expense. I'm not overly concerned about it. I think that certainly moving forward, we need to have some sort of mechanism in place so that we could understand where the billing's heading before it gets to us. So if we need to put a mechanism in place for CJC and Cook, and then we're going to have one for the harbor project as well. So we understand what the billable hours are. It can't be endless. It can't be, what is Dan doing this week? I have no idea. Oh, well, I spent 40 hours thinking about, you know, CJC, or I spent, you know, 20 hours trying to figure out this manhole cover issue, you know. We have to understand that. I think that the free will here for work is it's got to be reined in a little bit.
I mean, maybe I can give you like a summary where the different projects are. You know, I'm not promising to a monthly base, but I mean, maybe something on a quarterly base to keep track of what's going on. I'm not sure if that would help.
Yeah, I mean, we
Just all the
know,
projects and have anticipated budgets and where we are in that anticipated
Yep.
budget.
we're going to have to do something, Dan, because what we're doing is not.
Yeah, well, part of the other thing, Dan, is like, you know, I don't even know how much time I've spent on this. I bet you it's been 100 hours, like since the beginning of the year.
Yeah, Bill, I'm not really sure. I mean, I know Don is responsible for overall things, but I mean, I've never seen him scrutinize invoices like he's doing. I mean, you're an autonomous board.
But that's not the point. The
Yeah.
point is that if somebody from the town asks us questions, that's
Sure.
one side of it. The other side of it is I'm asking questions of myself saying, why is this being done? Why are we charging somebody a half an hour to speak to a board member?
Right,
It
and
doesn't
maybe,
make sense to me.
and maybe what I should do is put more detail in here.
Or not bill us for that. I mean, let me ask you a question. So if you believe that you should be billing the board for responding to questions or having a phone conversation with them, okay, so be it. Should I be billing you or taking a credit off of your payments because we're having this meeting or we're doing something else? It doesn't make sense to me. The whole aspect to me of having a consultant is there to give professional advice to us when we need it. I got to believe, going back to Paul's comment, that whatever is in your overhead, however you base your profit or whatever, which is none of our business, would cover the incidental costs of, okay, let me make a quick call to Wayne or Bill or Paul, bang, all right, 15 minutes, whatever it is. I
don't charge you for every single call and every single response. I don't.
Well, the way you've billed us, it leads one to believe that you do. That's all.
Yep.
I have a question, and that is, we had a meeting on Friday with Dan and his engineer, two of his engineers, his helper there, George, and himself, to sit down and go over basically plans and finalize one of Dan's requirements of, this is what I want for this. I don't want you to do this. I want you to do this, and I want you to agree it. We were able to take 25 different items and over a period of 2 or 2.5 hours, solve, come to a conclusion on it. They would say, yes, Dan might say this is an alternative, whatever. And it's a working meeting that the developer, Stasco, called in advance to get that taken care of. And it was basically our comments to them. Is that something that we should be considered, that we are explaining what we meant by something? Or, in my opinion, that should be a developer's cost. Yet, I think Billy is sort of saying, maybe that isn't, maybe that is.
No. I think that's different. I think that sending an invoice that needs to be defined is completely different from having a session with a client and going over plans with their engineers. Totally different. We should bill them for that.
But when they go ahead and say, listen, we wanted an explanation, it wasn't, we didn't understand that, or something else. Because there should be an invoice for Dan for that says, he drove down here too, so there's mileage back and forth. So say it's 2 hours. And in fact, he was answering questions, but they were answering questions. They were making, and I'm sitting there and I'm sort of saying, this is going pretty smooth. The first hour, we got through 15 items, and then went on after that. In addition, Stop and Shop representative walked in, and I think that day, Stasco had come to an agreement with them on whoever's paying for what. And the Stop and Shop person was asking Dan several technical questions as to whether or not he can use his existing pumps, whether or not he can, what do you do about the grease trap, what about different things like that, which I think are billable to Scasto, who's the landlord, even though they're asked for by.
I agree.
Yeah. The whole day is billable to Stasco because this was a specific meeting on the entire CJC property. What we're having an issue with, Wayne, is Dan going to bill us for the phone calls that he made to you setting up the meeting? Is he gonna bill us for answering questions from somebody after the meeting? We don't know that. And that's what we're saying is, you've answered all the questions at the meeting. Is Dan then say, well, there was a question I think I should have answered better or differently, and then another 3 hours of billing comes in after that meeting? That's what we're trying to wrap our arms around, is what's happening outside of these meetings we're getting billed for that we just don't clearly understand in advance of why it's
Yeah, I
being, or that type of thing. So that's really what it is. I mean, the meeting you had in person, I wish we had 10 of them. We would have been done by now. But it's really the incidental expenses that are being charged to us. Like I said, that should be part of some of the G&A on Dan's end that shouldn't be billed to us. And then there are some things that he legitimately should bill. So
let me just follow up on that one, because that's interesting, because, at this point in time, we had a bunch of comments that went over to Stasco and his engineers, which they haven't responded to yet. We had the meeting, resolved most everything in there. There's nothing that's going to show, a document of what was agreed to. So I anticipated I was going to go back to those comments and put resolutions, put further directions, and basically come up with a document that codified what everybody understood and distribute that. And that's probably going to be, 2 hours, 3 hours worth of time to go through it and point out, future directions, what's expected or whatever else. You're saying that's not billable?
No, I agree.
I think we just need to know, that's definitely billable, but we just need to know about it in advance. We're going to have these meetings. You're going to say to us, listen, I've got the CJ project. What's going to happen is I'm going to spend a couple of hours summarizing what we agreed to, since the board wasn't there, just the liaison for the board. And it's going to be a 4-hour bill. And we'd be like, okay, great. We anticipate that coming in, and we can pass that expense on to the customer. I guess that's what we're looking for, Dan, is we're just looking for some sort of insight as to what it is you're going to be working on, so we anticipate those expenses.
Yeah, that, by the way, that's necessary. Now, the Mark there from the engineering firm, he was taking his set of plans and writing notes on it, like, okay, or we got to do this, or whatever it happens to be. And I think that's what made it, I mean, in many cases, there was a 5-minute explanation and all this other stuff, or them not wanting to do something because it isn't in our printed rules and regulations, and Dan saying, the board has the right to make changes to the regulations or to ask for any additional information if it's required. So I think there should be follow-up, and whoever does the follow-up first, because they may write a letter and say things that weren't exactly what we agreed to, versus what Dan, who sends the first response often gets the
if you
best
want, I can wait, ask them for the minutes of the meetings and see if they have developed anything. But my fear is that becomes a protracted process. I'm still waiting on inspection reports from the beginning in January from them, So,
well, and the other thing is they're starting the job on Monday, or next Monday, right? And all the equipment is there and everything. So that's going to be a time that Dan will have to put, they've got a licensed person there, but it's always good to have someone that's on our side that is, going through any issues that come up.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement with that kind of stuff. It's just, it seems to me that the small little items that are just creeping up, but you add them all together and it becomes real money. And as Dan, as you say, we are our own enterprise fund and we have our own autonomy over that. Absolutely 100% correct. But at the same time, we were responsible to the sewer ratepayers to make sure that they get value for money. And I see, and just to be fair to us, some of the stuff that you're sending us, to me, does not seem like we're being fair to the sewer payers and paying it.
I'm also hearing what Paul's saying, and certainly I can send out an email and say, I anticipate, a couple hours doing this or that, or something like that, but who's gonna respond? Because a lot of times this is timely stuff.
Yeah, well, right, but.
I mean, sometimes I send out emails, I don't know if they even went through, you know what I mean? It's difficult. I know you're a volunteer board.
Right, of the 6 people on this board, 3 of us working day jobs as well, I mean, so.
I understand.
So it's sometimes difficult to do all this stuff. I think.
Looking for key pieces of information, it doesn't have to be drilled down that much, but, I have no idea outside of the sewer meetings, what you do for us during the month until we get. And then we sit here and we say to ourselves, well, why did you ask him to do this, or why did we do that? So, understanding what your plan is for the month. I mean, we have asked Tetra Tech for the same thing. We asked them for plans. What are you doing over the next 3 weeks? What are you doing over the next 4 weeks? And I think we can certainly request that of you. What are you going to be working on in June? What are you going to be working on and anticipating in July? So we understand, the workload and where we are budget wise. I think is all we're asking for, really. I mean,
Well, let me see if I can at least start to do a memo, and maybe what I can do is just send out an email notifying you of what's going on without having to wait for a response. At least that way you know what I'm working on, and if you want to pull the brakes on it, you can respond.
yeah, and that's all we're asking for, because I think, I don't know how much expenses have gone into this CJC project so far, but certainly I would think Cook would go a lot smoother. But we would, they're gonna have to pay the expenses, and they have no idea what those are. So if we have an idea, we can let them know, because the privilege and hookup fee is one thing, but in the contract they're gonna have to pay all expenses, and they're gonna ask us, what are those budgeted expenses? What can we anticipate? And we don't know, because we don't know what you're doing at any given month. Are we saying we're spending, $5,000 a month on CJC consulting fees? Or are we spending $7,000 a month? I have no idea what the average would be. So we really need to understand that. And that'll help us when we get to the harbor project with the hotel coming online. So, we can all anticipate that it generally costs us, we spend $2,500 a month on consulting fees to you for attending the meetings. We spend $5,000 a month on project specific items on average, so we'll have an idea of what those are. And once we understand that on a rolling basis, then invoices won't be a surprise to us.
Yeah, and I think, what I do with with my customers is on a monthly basis, I tell them what I plan on to be doing, what my action list of things, the big rocks that are going to be moving, as well as where I am, a budget to actual. So if I have a budget of X, $1,000 or whatever it is, I tell them where we are in the billing cycle for it, so that they can either, change it, adapt it, add to it, whatever.
Yeah, the finance department does that now. So what they do is for our consulting expense, let's say, is $80,000. Any bills that get applied to that account, every month we get a report, and we know that we're at 50% of budget, 80% of budget, 10% of budget. So that's just the top level that we get from finance, and then it's up to us to control the expenses from the various projects that we have listed on the contract with you. So
I think it'd be reasonable to have Dan do that. We get a similar situation from Woodard and Curran.
Yeah.
And they send us a bill, but they tell us what's going on. So I don't think it would be a burden to do that. And I think it would help us to figure out what you're going to be working.
I think a little outline or summary would be good. That way, at least you'll have that. But
also your accounting, I'm sure you've got somebody who can tell you on a pretty quick basis what your budget to actual is of the billing things that you got out with us.
Yeah, where we have actual budget set. you know what I
Right,
mean?
exactly.
So, like I said, a lot of it's T and M, so it's, but I mean, let me take a look and see if I can give you an overall summary of all the jobs. One other thing we talked about too was the rules and regulations too. Paul, you had wanted a rough estimate. I went back and looked at it. We do need to do a little drafting in terms of our standard details. We never had those before, so we were trying to finish those up. So that's a little bit of time. It's closer to about 40 hours to put together the final draft.
So what did you?
That's a
No,
mixture of time, so.
You know, I think you brought up some new rules and regs to the meeting with you. So is that part of what you've already done and there's 40 more hours in addition to that, or?
Yeah, there's about 40 hours to finish it up, including the appendix, which is, some of what I just said, the standard details that go along with it.
Okay, so we have our current rules and regulations.
We have about 20 hours of drafting time, and then maybe about 20 hours of additional upper level edits.
Okay, so then you're gonna submit a final draft of rules and regulations after the 40 hours, and then we as a board will review that. And then we will determine if we want to, implement the new revision. And then what our process is to do so.
Right. And, the typical, like I said, the typical process is to have kind of a public hearing on the regulations. But I mean, you typically can mandate and set rules and regulations yourselves by a vote of the board, I think, according to the bylaws. However, the town manager has typically wanted you to go back to town meeting to get in a town meeting approval of those rules and regulations.
Well,
So
we'll
that's
take a look.
something- Yeah,
We'll find out what the path is for publishing those. On the last go around, all we had to do was put something in the paper for 2 weeks.
so the question is, if you wanted to have hearings, then we'd have to have, additional time to set up hearings or workshops on that. Invite drain layers and, town boards or whatever.
Well, if you get
three residents.
When was the last time we ever did that? Because I don't remember it in my,
Back in 1999.
yeah.
the last rules and regulations were updated in 2002.
2000 was the last set of rules and regs.
So the town clerk has one, I believe, is 2002. I'll double check with her.
Yeah. Now, that's an important part, is that when we do these, they're supposed to be filed with the town clerk, who then is supposed to send a copy up to the AG or whatever, and to make sure that it's in the right format. Stasco brought that up a couple of times about you're requiring something that was not that you are.
I'm not sure. I mean, he's entirely correct on that, though. Wayne.
Yeah. Right. I've seen it so many different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you need the AG's or approval on the rules and regs.
Yeah. But I think you should record them at the town clerk's office so that there's
And I also think that it's appropriate to have your town council review them.
maybe.
Yeah, I think maybe, I don't know.
You know what? We have 3 sewer commissioners who can figure that out, Dan. We've got
Yep.
that, so we don't I appreciate
So the
you, but we're your task is to get us the rules and regulations for the subject matter expert areas that you're involved in on it. As far as the administration of those, that will be left up to the commission to figure out how we're going to implement filed with.
I'm not trying to dictate, just give you my insight.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I do.
So the question is, do you want us to pursue that at all, or you want us to hold?
Yeah, I would say to Wayne and Bill that I would like to have these new rules and regulations updated, whether they haven't been updated since 2000 or 2002. Either way, it's been a minimum of 20 years. Because the issue we have right now is a lot of the angst that we've had with CJC is they went by the published rules And we're saying, no, we want these things in addition to that. And they're saying, okay, well, we had no idea, because we didn't have a document stating so. We just, had a conversation during a meeting and all of a sudden we found out. So I don't want that to happen to Cook or the harbor or anywhere else. We're going to have this issue on Pleasant Street. They're going to tear down the building and put in 14 units with housing and retail. And we're going to have to go through that down there as well. So I'd like to get them published and not have to keep back to people saying, oh, by the way, we'd like this, this, and this. So
Yeah, I agree with the proviso that whatever is changed, we somehow highlight that stuff. So people don't have to go through and interpret what the change is. We tell them this is changed from that type of thing.
So what we do is we have our original plan and I'm sure Dan has it in Word format. So he could do a red line version as a draft. And then we would publish the approved version. So we could put the draft on the website, the changes, and then the new one.
Yeah, we don't have it in a red line format because it was a major revision formatting wise. I had sent a draft to the board a couple of years back, actually, in its new format. So in terms of the old versus the new, a lot has changed in terms of that, whole new sections.
Yep.
And the like. So we don't have it in a red line format, but I do have we will format the draft rights.
But can you identify, like, maybe not the changes themselves, but say this chapter has changed, this rule has changed, that kind of thing?
I could probably put some comments in there and really or bold up the important revisions.
So can we do this with a budget of $7,000 and proceed with it? Anybody? I'm making a motion.
Well, is that what the budget is? You said 40 hours?
Approximately, I'd say $7,000. Now, Dan, is that an okay number?
That's probably more than sufficient.
Okay. So a maximum budget of $7,000.
All right, I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Paul
Bill
Kearsarge.
McGowan- Yeah, Bill McGowan, aye.
Wayne Sawchuk. All right. Getting near lunchtime.
Yeah, I gotta go. All right, well, thank you, everybody.
Yep. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, see you later.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank
Thank
you.
Bye.